So welcome everyone to the next Catributor podcast. Today without a Jedi because he doesn't feel well, but we have our reoccurring guest Yuzral at start.
Good evening, and of course I have brought along Yeet, the cuddly shark, because you can't do this without a mascot, can you?
Definitely.
Okay, so another week, and considering it's patch week, we've got a fair few things to cover. So unusually for Wargaming, they've put out a known issues article, and this is another nice change to see from them, that they're being upfront about, okay, this isn't working right. Because old bad Wargaming, the one we rioted against, come on, when was the last time you got them to actually be upfront and admit stuff straight away until you'd actually dragged it out of them with wild horses?
Very, very true. It's although a very short known issues article, but it's a good start. I hope they do things like that more in the future.
Absolutely. So
the first known issue is containers are not opening in the order they were required. And basically the statement to that is that they just changed how containers are opened. So this isn't really an issue in that sense. It's more a clarification that they've made a change on how container openings work. And that they plan to change it even further in the future.
Yes. The potential hiccup there is how this is going to knock onto Christmas containers. Because if somebody bulk buys Christmas containers under this system, then remember that container contents used to be rolled when you bought the container. Now they're rolled when you open the container. So potentially what could happen here is if you bulk buy a bunch of mega containers and some big Santa boxes and some little bitty Santa boxes, but you open the mega ones first. So that may knock onto the conditions. We're going to need to see the fine print on this. But okay, fair enough. They're being straight up about it. Honestly, I don't think it's a change most people had even noticed, but clearly someone had. And they've decided to be open about it. Also, bug that had been going around on the Reddit. SAP traces are appearing white rather than red. In particular, this had been reported on the Napoli, because that's, I think, the most used ship that actually uses SAP for its secondaries.
Yep. I mean, I'm not too concerned with secondary. Main guns would a bit more an issue, because obviously you want to know which ammunition you're being shot with, right? Because you might need to angle against something like that. But for Napoli, if it's mostly Napoli secondaries, I think it's not the worst thing. And it's nice for them to just go out and admit it.
It's nice for them, as I say. This is another nice little step to see from Wargaming on their road back to a company we can like rather than merely tolerate, and sometimes not even that. But honestly, I can't think of... Is there a ship beyond Napoli that uses secondaries? I mean, maybe the Annapolis, because that, if memory serves, has got what amounts to an Austin strapped to either side for its secondaries. But I can't offhand think of another ship that uses Marco Polo. I think that uses SAP secondaries as well.
Could be.
Yeah. I'd also note that if you're in secondary range of either of those, somebody has screwed up somewhere.
Well, I mean, let's just say if you're in secondary range, your main concern is probably not like trying to angle against secondaries or something. You have far bigger issues.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can argue that. Moving on, and okay, the North Carolina camo that was promised for King of the Sea, it was temporarily not where it should have been. But apparently they have fixed that now, so huzzah.
Yeah, as of today, it should be fixed.
Yeah, as of just under 8 hours ago. And yeah, as I say, it's nice to see them being upfront about problems in a patch and saying, yes, we know about this, we're working on it, it's in hand. So that is another very pleasant step to see from Wargaming.
Speaking of pleasant steps, just a small like last week we've discussed on the podcast the survey, and we went through the submarine survey. As it turns out, that survey was not intended for everyone, because Sub Octavian then commented on Reddit and said that basically all those comments are not gonna be considered, because if you weren't personally invited by email, then your answers are meaningless.
Well, okay. Personally, I would still have used the data, but I might perhaps have considered the source a little bit. I mean, it kind of sits ill that he's got this data and he's disregarding it, even if it's something you take with a pinch of salt and you consider the source. But okay, I missed that, I have to admit.
Yeah, it took a few days, and then he basically just posted on Reddit, and he said that the way they do service is they send people an email, and he said something like they send it to about 100,000 people randomized who have played more than 5 battles in that patch, and he claimed that asking more people doesn't give them better data. And while I understand that at a certain point you have a viable sample size of the community, an issue like submarines, they really could have asked everyone. It's especially since they said that they'd be more listening to feedback, and submarines are probably one of the biggest changes that the game has ever seen. It's definitely a topic where you want to ask everyone.
I would, again, this is one of those things where it sits a bit ill that they're discarding the data. I would perhaps, as you say, though, consider, okay, how many games has this person actually played in subs versus what are they saying? How many games have they played against subs as well? So if someone comes on and says, subs are overpowered monstrosities, etc., nerf, kill, main, burn, and it turns out they've played no games in subs and have been up against a sub maybe 3 times in randoms, okay, am I going to take that more or less seriously than someone who's played 20, 30, 100 games in subs, 40, 50, 200 games against them? So,
I mean, the requirement for being eligible to be sent the survey was 5 battles in random battles. You could have never met the submarine, right, and still gotten the survey. So well, according to them, it's randomized. So a lot of people that might have gotten the survey can't even properly answer it. But that was the first question, I think, was if you have played against submarines or if you have tested them yourselves, right? But they asked that in the survey. But it feels like after people have been praising them for actually doing a survey, even though it was a bit weird because the changes were already announced for submarines when the survey came. But and Wargaming's answer to that was, yeah, you know what, this all goes to the shredder.
Yeah, that I will admit is okay. I mean, thank you for the honesty, but you're chucking away what is potentially a very nicely expanded data set here. Speaking of the subreddit and Sub-Octavian, there was an amusing one that went up about 9 hours ago on the subreddit. A player contacted Wargaming Player Support and discovered, well, they had named their player account after an actress of the persuasion. Somehow Wargaming staff noticed, which raises an interesting question about what some of Wargaming staff are doing in their spare time. And the name was initially declared inappropriate, and Sub actually got onto the thread and said, okay, yes, this is meme-worthy, but we are actually going to have to revert that ban, and it doesn't break the rules, and sorry. So, yes. As someone else commented, there's going to be an interesting conversation at work in the office on Monday morning. And also hello to Acting Outlaw and Capsis. Also from the subreddit, and in another bit of late breaking good news, Score Timer is back. For those of you not familiar with it, Score Timer was an absolute boon to those of us who were casting competitive, because what it does is it looks at the scores and it looks at the cap state and it looks how fast it's going. It basically works out who's going to cap out first at the current position and how long until they do it. And for the past couple of patches, this has been broken. And it was broken during the last King of the Sea. I don't know if you were casting for that, A-Time. I wasn't.
No, I have never casted King of the Sea.
But if you were watching King of the Sea, you might have noticed that timer was missing. It's back. It has been announced again on the summit just a few hours ago. Score Timer is back. Apparently, Aslanes has got it. The mod station has got it. A third party managed to convert the code over into the correct libraries, and we can now see how long it is until our opponents cap out, so we can yell even louder at our teammates, or vice versa.
Wouldn't it be nice if they just finally implemented that into the main game? Like early on, like I felt like Wargaming looked at mods and they just took several things and implemented them into the game. Like, for example, the aiming point that you can see on the minimap and things like that. But I just stopped. Like early on, they were like, okay, mods might have some interesting ideas, so we can't really block them anyway and they give an advantage, so why don't we implement them into the game? But I feel like at a certain point, they were like, yeah, we don't care anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, as you say, the map aiming indicator, they implemented it, but they didn't implement it at full precision. So in the mod version, you have an X showing you your precise point of aim. The standard version just has that little circle, so you can drop your shells into the right postcode. But precision fire, not so much. But yeah, I would love to see Score Timer in the base climb. That would be very nice. Ditto option to set frame rate cap, which is nothing that's kind of broken and had to be tweaked under the hood recently. As well as things like version replay folders and yeah, I mean, let's face it, the nomogram gun sight. And shall we hunt down the Rancor? No, Water. Nobody has eaten a Jedi. He has contracted some sort of spec flu. We're not entirely sure what.
I'm sure Sam is not to blame and is lovingly taking care of Jedi.
Either that or he's killed him in his eating body. Either way, we'll find out next week. So yeah, the Reddit has generally... Actually... Yes, also another thing that slipped in very, very quietly in the Superships has been that you recall that they used to have a problem, allegedly, where they couldn't run a mission past the end of the calendar year.
Oh, yeah.
And the Superships mission, if you look at it, supposedly this is a bug, but I haven't seen official confirmation from Wargaming on the point yet.
Yeah, it shows something like 3,000 days or something like that.
Exactly. So that would be, if that's the case, if they have nailed that bug, that gets rid of a lot of minor nuisances, particularly towards the end of the calendar year. If it's not a bug and there's a genuine fix, as I say, there's a bit of confusion on the point.
I mean, it always has seemed weird that I felt that they claimed that this is something that they couldn't do. I mean, it has always smelled more like an excuse that they were unwilling to do that.
I am not a programmer. I am not wise to the ways of the spaghetti and the code. I know not the logic of the Booleans, nor do I know the mysteries of the XOR statement. Therefore, I am not going to comment on what is or is not possible in their programming.
True. I mean, they made some very interesting things possible, like the torpedo bugs. So I guess Wargaming code works in mysterious ways.
And bear in mind that it is a web interface on top of a client that is, I think at its core, is about 10 years old now. I think they're still using the Big World engine. So weirdness is occasionally to be expected. There
is an interesting thing since you're talking about it. Like, a lot of the menus in game, like basically browser windows, right? If you connect to the armory and so on. But there are certain times like that. There have been patches, sometimes months, where I couldn't open them up in game. But I can always open them in the browser, right? So if I open my browser, I can connect to the armory, no problem. But if I try in game, I can't.
Yes, and I haven't had that myself, but it is nice that 10.0 has finally, I think, seen browser hardware acceleration come in. I don't know if you noticed.
I can't open the armory since yesterday, so before it worked.
Okay, scratch that line of thinking. It was nice fine in turbo, unless it went turbo straight into the harbour wall, popped a leak and sank. So once Atom's dredged out the channel and refloated his armory, well, we'll go from there. But when it works great. I've noticed it working a great deal faster in port now.
I mean, I see. I also have I'm one of the unfortunate few that has ping issues since about 2 weeks. So I'm playing more like a PowerPoint presentation these days than an.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. I've had a few. I've had I'm just blaming Scottish internet for all my woes, but there we go. So moving on, 10.0 obviously. Pretty water, I think, is the first thing everyone's noticed. I mean, the visual overhaul has been brilliant. No question about that. But we've got a ton of other stuff to cover as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest topic, probably the superships that are now, at least the first topic that's mentioned. The superships are now in ranked battles. I mean, I haven't played any yet, and I don't really like ranked battles.
They're in co-op as well. If you can play them in co-op, they will be in ranked goes live next week, I believe. But unfortunately, I got cold yesterday. I spent most of yesterday evening watching Payne's charity stream and binging through co-op battles to get tokens stashed away. So I am probably going to muck about with those tomorrow. I got the drop today with the first of the one-day rentals. The superships. So, I mean, Satsuma and Hanover we're all vaguely familiar with. Conde, Annapolis, Yamagiri, and Zorki. Right. Where do you want to start with these? Because I say I have got no practical experience.
I mean,
at the helm of any of them.
I don't have either, and there have been changes in testing. I'm not sure with which versions are currently live, how the autoloaders work. I mean, I know that the cruisers basically, I think both have an autoloader, and we know that the battleship Satsuma has increased accuracy for main guns and can trigger. Hanover has it for secondaries, and the Yamagiri I think has the torpedo switch.
Yes,
and I forgot what Zorki has.
Zorki has the burst fire turret as well, same as Annapolis and Conde. I think the big thing this time around for superships, well, let's be honest here, somewhere between tier 10.5 and tier 11, is that the limit breaks, they were automatically triggering last time. You couldn't control when they popped. You filled the meter, off it went. This time around, it is charged up and manually triggered. So you press F, charge up, press F, away you go. Have fun. Yes, Water. Believe me, I've noticed. You really noticed it in the submarines. I don't think they've actually added a little avatar of somebody relieving themselves over the side, but it's definitely the pitch and roll is definitely there.
Yeah, I mean, this I've seen it with a destroyer in battle, and it looked pretty cool when you're moving forward and the ship rocks a little bit left and right and so on. It feels like you might actually be moving at water now.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, the smaller the ship, the more noticeable it gets, which is absolutely right. As far as the superships go, okay, we'll see how they work out. Annapolis, I swear somebody supersized the Des Moines and then strapped 2 Austins to the side for the secondary battery. That is the only thing I can think of. I've seen a few of those running around. Mostly they've exploded, which may or may not say very much about them. Then again, they were mostly bot-controlled, so make of that what you will.
I mean, the problem that cruisers always have is that overmatch is just a big. I'm not sure if those do they have like 32. If you don't have 32mm of armor, then you're having a bad time because you're just a very big target that gets overmatched anywhere.
Well, if you have 32mm of armor, Yamato still does not care, and neither does Satsuma. And in fact, I don't think Hanover cares either.
Oh, true. They are making 32 even more obsolete these days, I suppose.
Well, let's be honest here. If you were in a cruiser and a battleship was looking at you funny, unless it was French or possibly mid to high tier German, it was still a case of dodge, duck, weave, and hope you can donk it off the belt at high angle.
Yeah.
Because if you just tried to face tank it, you would very swiftly get reminded that you were not, in fact, in a battleship, and that was not going to work. Ha ha, see you in port, better luck next time. Conde, I still do not understand Conde's funnel. I would love to know where they got that split funnel design from.
It looks weird.
That was my first thought. The first picture I thought was at a slightly awkward angle, and it looked like somebody put the old French style of rotating funnel, but it just hadn't worked somehow. And then I saw it in game, and I've seen this picture, and I'm just thinking, why? Unless they were worried about smoking up the radio and aerials, which seems an unusually petty concern. I would love to know if there's a historical precedent for that, because I have never seen a funnel arrangement done like that before.
I think the best part was where you went like Y, because it really looks like a Y.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So maybe I should have said pourquoi. Because I got nothing. Is the short answer to that. I got nothing on that design.
Somebody probably thought it looked cool. I would presume.
For all wargaming's occasional necessity of late to reach for the paper, they do generally stick to stuff that is at least a reasonable extrapolation of what was built.
Well,
that is so off the wall that I honestly do not know where they got it from. And I would love to know, because I'm thinking there's got to be a precedent in there somewhere. I mean, I'd asked Drac, but, well, I think he's still... Actually, he probably has recovered from that time we asked him about French pre-dreadnoughts. Maybe we can ask him about French post-war cruisers. He might not run screaming.
I mean, I have no idea how deep they had to reach for those super ships, or if they have completely decided to I don't know.
Well, the Yamagiri is a fairly reasonable extrapolation of the Shimakaze. That's fair enough. The Zuki, I have no idea. I'm assuming there's a Soviet project in there somewhere. The Soviets did a lot. The Annapolis, again, is a reasonable extrapolation. Okay, you take the Des Moines turrets, you bulk it up, and you swap out the 5-inch for what looked like Austin 5-inch turrets. So that's a reasonable what if. The Hanover and the Satsuma, well, we all know Satsuma's provenance, and the Hanover ditto. The only thing that is making me go pourquoi is that funnel design on the Conde. Written Water looks like a V8 Charger out of Mad Max. I sail, I sink, I sail again. I mean, the attitude does kind of work for all the warships, doesn't it?
I guess we just have to remain confused for now.
I'll ask.
But I wouldn't be surprised if
comes up.
If somebody just thought they were creative. I mean, there is still the Zieten also, the German tier 8. They sometimes do weird things.
Maybe. I was wondering if somebody had been looking a little too much at the Type 45s, but there you go. So, moving on. Let's see. Oh, yes, Arms Race is back.
Yes.
Again, as I say, I was binging out in co-op last night, so I haven't had time to play this.
Well, I mean, I wasn't playing, I haven't been playing it yet. I was mostly fighting the ping, and it's a losing battle for the most part. I'll tell you what, if you ever have like a ping of over 1,000, don't try playing in Atlanta. It just doesn't work.
If I ever have a ping of over 1,000, I am yanking every connection, finding what's loose, and then I am going and complaining to my ISP using as many salty words as I think I can get away with.
But my ISP is unfortunately not at fault, so I can't yell at them. Because I can play any other game, I can even stream without a single frame drop. It's just the Wargaming's, and like my connection to Wargaming is somewhat screwed.
Ah, that's unfortunate. So how exactly did your ping end up taking a 300,000 kilometer detour?
I have no idea. It's just got bored, I guess, and lost on the way.
Yeah,
but it's jumping. The sad thing is, there are moments where it works, where it's like at 30, and then it jumps to 200 or 300 or so, and then it just goes for 1,000, and then suddenly you start teleporting, and ships start not properly fading in and out, and they just plop back on, and then suddenly a ship appears, and it's an interesting experience, I tell you.
This is the Chinese definition of interesting, isn't it?
Especially if you dodge a torpedo and then it hits you like 10 meters in the side of you.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
But Arms Race is something I'm looking forward to playing if my connection gets fixed again at some point. Also, I don't think it has submarines in it, so that's already a plus.
This is true. Submarines are currently confined to randoms and co-op. So, they've toned down the healing buff, and I will admit, what did establish pretty quickly last time we had Arms Race was get the heal points above all else. As I say, I haven't had a chance to play this yet, so I'll get some time in, and hopefully we'll see how it goes. And hopefully we can appease your internet gods.
They have stated in the past, when they said that they're bringing it back, that they are going to test it and want to eventually implement it in random battles. So I'm really looking forward if they make that mode permanent. Because Arms Race has always been fun. It's just wasn't there. For whatever reason.
We'll see how it does in the random rotation. I'll admit to a little bit of lingering doubt on that point, but on the other hand, it does mix up random battles if they add it in. So, hey, we've been working with zone control and standard battle for years now. Let's have another mode in and get a bit more variety. Go for it. What's next? Oh, yes, Novorossiysk. Absolutely, totally not the old Junio Bruto. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That.
I mean, I can't really remember how it formed, but
background for those of you who aren't familiar. Of course, the Novorossiysk is the Julio Cesare in post-war Russian service. She bimbled, as I remember it, she bimbled around the Black Sea for a bit, and then she hit a mine in the early 1950s, and that was pretty much that. But a couple of years ago, when the Julio Cesare had been out for a bit and was turning out to be an overpowered little murder boat down at Tier 5, Wargaming very briefly trialed a Tier 6 version, the Junio Bruto, as they called it at the time. And there was some suggestion that they might just unilaterally replace the Julio Cesare. The community rioted, and that was the end of that. So what we have got here, assuming they don't tweak anything else, and we'll see how it does in testing, is basically, I would presume, the same again. So a Cesare with slightly upgraded plate on the extremities to bring it into line with Tier 6. From what I remember, she only really suffered once you stacked her up against the Tier 8s. But at the time, 6-8 spreads were pretty common in the matchmaker.
I mean, that was an entirely different game back then, let's be honest, right?
This is also true.
It was, I think, before like even the carrier rework.
Yeah, it was. And that's actually another thing. The Gibraltar, of course, had Italian AA. I don't remember if the Soviets regunned the anti-air suite once they got hers Novorossiysk. So Soviet 37s rather than Italian 20s or 40s might make for a slightly better anti-air bite in the mid-ranges.
Also, I mean, the most interesting part is you can get it for free, right?
Yes. So
I mean, I haven't looked at the missions yet, but
they haven't gone live yet. That's happening next week. So 5 themed combat mission groups. You almost wonder why they aren't doing this in the campaign interface.
I've wondered so many things. Like they just create more and more things that do the same thing in a way for no reason. It feels like the campaign interface worked pretty well and it was a fun thing, and they absolutely abandoned it for some reason. And then they did like the with the Missouri, they did this web campaign for I don't know, no reason.
I didn't pay any real attention to that. I was too busy rioting at the time. Apparently, Water just popped up and noted that according to Kilobin, yes, they did extensively refit the AA suite. So yeah, Italian battleship with Soviet anti-air suite. So
I'm sure it won't shoot down a plane regardless.
Well, we'll see. The Soviet 37 got pretty nasty once you put a decent fire control system on top of it. Of course, whether you can cram a decent fire control system into a 20, 30-year-old battleship at that point that's had at least one major rebuild already. Can I get back to you on that one? So yeah, we'll see how she does next week. We also will have to see where the missions go next week, because they could be good, they could be horrific, they could be somewhere in the middle, and I'm sure you'll have a large variety of opinion on the point. Speaking of shooting down aircraft, Soviet carriers are here, comrade. And there was surprisingly little rejoicing on the point.
There were unsurprisingly many carriers out. The games that I played. It was not pleasant.
Yeah, they're interesting. I did get a chance to test them briefly before everything blew up in the summer, and we all got kicked. Well, we left. But these are standoff carriers. They're designed to operate out at maximum range, which does mean that fighters and close-range anti-air do relatively little to them. On the flip side, they have dethroned the Germans as squishiest aircraft in the game. So if a Soviet carrier driver makes a mistake and does get close, he's going to get quite badly chewed up by massed anti-air.
Yeah, I mean, badly is a relative term, and they can all drop from perfect safety with their planes. So in theory, they have a weakness, but in reality, wargaming designed them so that it's not a weakness.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out. On the other hand, if you are dropping from that far out, you are adding those extra few seconds for evasion. So
I mean, it really depends on like what ship you're dropping on, right? If you're in a Kurfürst, you aren't gonna do any evading. And it also, as usual, depends if you have the option to turn or if you're showing broadside to something else then.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is going to come down, and we'll see how things shake out over the next few weeks. If memory serves, they've already actually had to dish out a couple of nerfs, I think, particularly to Pobeda and Nakhimov. But we'll see. I've only actually got up to Serov myself, thanks to the fact that I reset a couple of research lines, so I'm a bit short on free XP at the moment. Right.
Well, then there are like German battleships, although they haven't been fully released yet, right? It's just you can't earn tokens any longer.
Yes. So the German battle cruisers, more or less, are still floating about. I am not sure if they're going to give us another opportunity to pick up tokens. I don't think so, but I could be wrong here.
I think you can just buy them now if you want, and
Right.
where you can farm tokens that part is over. I've managed to get the tier 7, so and once they go live, I'll just unlock the others.
Yeah, I got up to the tier 5, the Derflinger, but again, it's something to grind. It's something to do, and a lot of people seem to be having quite a lot of fun with these.
Yeah, the Mackensen have performed very well for me, and the Heinrich I have only recently unlocked. I haven't played it that much yet, but there is a lot of potential in the Heinrich too.
Okay. And Hamburg's had a do-over. I don't think it's actually meant to be on fire, but that's just the effect of the dawn sky.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't actually looked at the Hamburg port yet. I've been using, I think one port that got the visual overhaul.
Yeah, I think it pretty much defaulted everyone back to the Philippines port because that got overhauled, and I've stayed there as well. And like I say, the visual overhaul looks oh wow. Oh wow. I mean, that is just amazing. Is the only word for it.
I've even been once on Two Brothers and once on the Volcano map. They also look pretty amazing. I can't wait for them to overhaul all the maps.
Yeah, that is... Yes, more of this, please. I know we've all said that the art department sometimes seems to be carrying this game, but I think once again they're kind of proving that point.
Yeah, and they have just here Inventionals of the Waters and all of that. I mean,
yes.
Once again, the art department There is also apparently new underwater, not that I've played a submarine yet, and possibly, sharks, because, your mascot might feel lonely, so.
Maybe. I mean, it's stuffed with cotton wool. I doubt it has the capacity to feel lonely at all.
I'm not an expert on sharks.
No, neither am I. So he doesn't say much. Right, clan battles coming back. 7v7, tier 10, no interest. Okay, no carriers. I think we all saw that one coming. These days, people tend to riot if you say, hey guys, let's have a competitive mode with aircraft carriers. It does tend to result in burning torches, pitchforks, and for that matter, burning pitchforks.
Well, they did 2 carriers last time and it wasn't well received.
What's more interesting to me is the third part of the restrictions. A team cannot have 2 identical ships. So, does that complicate things for people?
I mean, I'm not really somebody who plays clan battles. And I mean, I like it in the sense that it forces more diversity on it. And it's also a very simple counter to everyone spamming the one overpowered ship in a sense. So I generally like that there's a restriction, but then again, I'm not a clan battle player. So, but if I feel like this is a good thing, but no carriers and only one type ship makes sense.
It's an interesting thing. I don't play clan battles either, so it'll be interesting to see what the teams make of the meta, and it's always nice to see things just shaken up a bit. So there was just a cat. Moving on. Speaking of burning pitchforks,
Submarines.
Yeah, I've had about 2 hours of submarine action post 10.10. All I'm going to say is I have managed to make the keel breakers work once, and that was against an aircraft carrier at the end of a game that was sailing in a straight line and had quite clearly given up. And I have also sent about 5 salvos after a Fletcher at 6 kilometers on a variety of single and double pings, and I haven't connected a single homing torpedo on the little sod. So
the thing is, I like that they are now dodge. That's the problem with homing torpedoes, right? How do you find the middle ground with making them dodgeable, but not like useless in a sense? I feel like the biggest issue, and also with like the damaged torps, the biggest issue is that once you ping, you see that you've been pinged, which means you know you have to maneuver in it. And that it's like,
if you are thinking, yes, you get 10 seconds of warning. In fact, yeah, you basically get 10 seconds of warning minimum if somebody is trying for a keel breaker shot. So yeah, slam on the rudder, cut to half power. It's just like dodging destroyer torpedoes.
Yeah, it's like the thing is
probably easier.
Yeah, you have single launch torpedo, you can spread them out a little bit if you want, but it's like single launch of a daring or something, right? It's very powerful usually if the enemy doesn't see it coming, right? If you can catch somebody off guard, if you can get like the perfect line into his nose or something, right? Then single launch torpedoes are amazing. But with a ping, you announce that, you're going to torp him. So any prediction torps are going to be off if he maneuvers. Then again, the ship doesn't know if there are homing torpedoes coming or if there are the damage torpedoes coming. But
you slam the rudder regardless.
Yeah. It just, that's the biggest issue I feel like with damage torps, right? It's like if you know that you're pinged, know that you have to dodge. I guess you could still try to spread them out a bit and create your own pattern with them. And then
you can, but then at that point it's a case of, well,
it's like being a destroyer, right?
Yeah, with about half the torpedoes and no backup plan.
Well, what's your backup plan in a destroyer?
The guns and the speed. And if all else fails, the smoke. Okay.
Well, you can always dive to the bottom.
Yes, and the problem is that by the time you have dived deep enough to evade, you can't see anything either. Because that cuts both ways. You can still be hit by depth charges. I mean, they can still run you over with little barrels of pain, or large barrels of pain, depending on what kind of depth charge we're talking about here. But
it's a better escape mechanic than a smoke screen in the sense that, if you're in a smoke screen, you are still there. You can be pushed in a smoke screen and you are constrained to the area where smoke is. First, I might see you if you leave. As a sub, you just dive and then you sneak away in any direction. And it's pure coincidence. If you surface again and somebody is at top of you, and if your team spots you, then it's not even that big of a deal for you because you see where the enemies are. They can't see you and you can't just go away. So you basically have to.
No. If you're below, if you're at maximum depth, you lose your data link as well.
Oh, you can't see
you can't see anything if you are below.
Well, that's good. That's
operating depth. If you're at maximum depth, the only things you can see are another sub if it's either at proxy spot and down with you, or if you've got your hydrophones running, in which case you'll get the occasional pulsed image, and it's a half-second thing. But you lose your data link the moment you go deep enough to not be seen by hydro or aircraft or proxy spotting.
Yeah, but that's good. I like
that. Yeah, so do I, but it has to be noted that it's not a case of they can see me and I can't see that. No.
Nobody sees anything. It's still a very good escape, too.
It's an escape move, provided they haven't got one of their own subs. And as I note, if they think you're in the area and if there's still that little last contact marker on the mini-map, expect lots of angry flying boats to pay you a visit.
Oh yeah, that's like
they don't need to see you to hit you.
Yes, but that's a very brief. Like that's mostly like when you have contact, when you get spotted, and the enemy pays attention, and you immediately need to dive and break away in one direction in order to avoid getting wrecked.
Yeah, and I would argue that is a similar situation to a torpedo destroyer getting caught out. But a torpedo destroyer is significantly faster and does at least get the option of shooting back.
I mean, as I did, in order to use your smoke, you have to basically turn around, because if you're going full speed towards the enemy, the smoke doesn't do anything. So you either have to slow down, which makes you an easy target, or turn so that you can deploy the smoke behind you.
Yeah. So there's a certain element of swings and roundabouts to it. I'm going to repeat something I've been saying a while now. Submarines are basically the Japanese torpedo destroyers in hardcore mode. If you like that style of gameplay, you're going to love the subs. If it's not your thing, then you're going to loathe them. But what I would also note is that a lot of what I'm hearing sounds remarkably like what was being said right the way back around release, when everyone was down at Tier 5, everyone was new, there weren't too many Hydra sets, and the Miyakaze was running around murdering Congos and New York's left, right, and centre. What was it that Jingles said back in the day? During the beta, more Miyakaze sank more tonnage and more ships than anything else in the game.
But keep in mind that Miyakaze has been nerfed 3 times since then.
Yeah, and I would suggest that they might have overcooked it a little, but that's just me. I would say at this point, in my opinion, but I'm basing this off, 1, only a couple of hours with subs in 10.10, and 2, there is going to be, I may still have a degree of adjustment shock going on here, because I played them pretty extensively in 10.9. I would say that Wargaming should probably slice maybe 10, maybe 25%, maybe 20%, something in that bracket, off the stop homing ranges for all classes. Because right now, well, in 10.9, it was also trivially easy for an alert battleship to evade homing torps, as odd as that might sound, provided you weren't blindsided and you turned away when you got pinged.
The thing is,
those torps tended to miss.
If you can like slightly angle against the ping, basically, right? And if the sub didn't do anything fancy, like torp on the side and ping you later so that the torps come from an unexpected direction. But if it's a sub that basically just torps from the exact same direction it pings from, and then you are able to turn your nose towards it, then they were very easy to dodge. But as soon as you can't turn freely as a battleship, you were just caught pants down, because otherwise you might give broadside. And the other thing is, an easy way for a sub to counter that, well, easy, is like, basically you launch like 2 torps and you ping. And, you know, the way to dodge torps is obviously you need to slow down and turn so that they pass in front of your nose, right? But if you do that, you basically turn more towards the ping. Because if they're completely nose on, you can't dodge anyway. And if you are too slow, then they basically home too much towards you and you can't dodge anyway. You need enough speed that the torp tries to intercept you, and then you can dodge. And with each torp that comes towards you, you have to like slow down and turn more towards the torp, meaning the next salvo is harder to dodge. And if as a submarine you just keep like the torp after torp after torp coming, then you can't, there comes a point where dodging doesn't work any longer, right? You can dodge at the start and it gets worse and worse, and then you're just food.
The solution to that, and the solution that I've seen from an awful lot of very untorpedoed battleships, has been to turn away.
Well, if you sail away, that makes it easier. But if the submarine is in front of you, right? If you make a full turn, then you show them your broadside, right? If the torps just arrive when they...
You literally just put your stern to the ping. and then you just wiggle a little back and forth. And what happens
Yeah, but
is
look, a submarine's in front of you, it pings your nose. What you gonna do? You can
slam on the
completely
rudder.
around. Yes, but
Yes.
you don't know
Bang,
where the
depth
torps are. The
charges.
torps will hit you while you turn.
The torps have got a turning radius of somewhere between 2 and 3 kilometers. And once they're within 2 kilometers of you, they stop homing.
Yes.
Hmm.
I know,
So
but
you stand on the rudder. This is the solution. This is the miracle. The damage control is the oh shit button if something has gone horribly wrong and you've somehow got a horrid salvo of keel breakers running in towards you. As I say, I have seen a few absolute monster keel breaker shots, but rather like destroyer torpedoes, it's been a case of I have needed a cooperative target to land salvos like that. And even then, okay, well, fine, you've just eaten 6 there. Yeah, and if a Shimikaze or a Gearing had dumped 10 or 15 into you, at these same conditions, you'd be very, very dead instead of just staggering away with a large hole in your hull. Why do subs even need homing torps, Peaches? Because you only get 6 of them, is the quick answer to that one.
Yeah, but they are on a pretty fast reload. The one thing is obviously that they need to change depth, in a sense, in order for the submarine diving and so to somewhat work the way they want it to. And so they need to at least change height. And the other part is that once Wargaming has an idea, they really don't like discarding ideas, no matter how bad they are. So they are going to drive the homing thing home no matter what happens. So, but the problem is that homing is just so hard to balance because, as we've said earlier, right? If it homes too much, it's undodgeable, and if it doesn't home enough, then you're forewarned that a torpedo is coming, and it's probably too easy to dodge. Finding a middle ground there is going to be damn hard.
Yes, and at the moment, I think, particularly for battleships, they have got it a smidge too far towards the easy to dodge side. Destroyers were absolutely needed the extra warning that they got in
cruisers
10.10. Cruisers to an extent. But again, I do wonder if perhaps they've swung it a little too far. But as I say, part of that might just be adjustment shock and skill level on my part. So I've managed about 2 hours with subs in 10.10 thus far. So
yeah, I haven't played a sub yet.
Early days, we'll see how it goes. The other thing I'd note is that subs... Okay, this is mildly amusing. Subs were pretty good at detecting hostile ships while underwater.
Yes.
Excuse me. So, what's happened? So, at the moment, if you're on the surface, standard detection rules apply. If you're at periscope depth, I am trying to source this. I've seen a couple of people claim that it's air spotting ranges instead. I've seen a couple of claims that it's just a percentage penalty to the spotting radius, but you can't spot as effectively. As in, I think it's air spotting because I have been on the surface, seen something like a destroyer or a cruiser, dive down to scope depth, and I've lost the contact. And I've also had a couple of destroyers pop up at 2.2, 2.3 kilometers, maybe 2.5, when I've been at periscope depth. So I personally think it's air spotting. I just haven't found a definitive source on the matter.
I remember something about air spotting. I mean, they've changed a lot on submarines over the times, but I think it's air spotting too, yeah.
Yeah. However, once you go below periscope depth, it is now proximity spotting, 2 kilometers only.
Which is a good thing.
Arguable. But I would tend to agree, but this idea that submarines are somehow an ultimate ninja spotter that cannot be countered. No. It's just like having a destroyer out on picket, and even to get that, you've got to be surfaced. So, hooray.
I mean, the problem was, right, that as a submarine you could basically dive and you could still spot the enemy, especially if you were facing like a cruiser, for example, that has no planes. you can't just keep him spotted and you can reverse. Even if he could spot you back in some way or form with a Hydra or something, right? You still keep him visible and he can't do anything to you, right? You're basically completely, utterly safe while you can keep this guy spotted. And that was like really an issue.
Well, these days it's proxy spotting. So if you're below scope depth and you can see him, he can most definitely see you.
Yeah, but
And
now
then
it
here
gives
comes-
you possibly a chance. 2 kilometers, I mean, for subs are fast. Not even with 2 kilometers, there is guaranteed that you can get the depth charges atop of him, right?
Any surface ship is faster than a sub.
Yeah, but if they're going in the same direction, you don't, like, it's not so... I mean, subs can move up to like 30 knots or so, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you do like 32 knots, it takes you quite a bit of time. Like, you have to basically, like, depth charges drop into your rear, right? And then they are delayed when they explode. So if the sub's 2 kilometers in front of you and running away, and you're running after it, it takes a lot of time for you to overtake it and be in a position where you drop. All the while you're spotted.
Depends on the ship to an extent, but in that solution, you just turn around and you break contact.
Yes,
Because
with 2
he's gonna
kilometers,
be
it's
down
now possible to do that. With the spotting range, it wasn't.
Anyhow, so yeah, subs have taken a big whack with the nerf bat, and I must admit I'm of the opinion that it might have been overkill. I don't want to say they've been nerfed to the seabed, but we'll see. Moving on before Atam and I kill each other. Division achievements. Yay, finally, it only took 6 years.
Oh, yeah. That's a very welcome change. One the community has been asking for since start of the game. And I like them.
Yes, and it's nice to see the option as well. I do wonder if we're going to see the same thing with Brothers in Arms that we do in the World of Tanks Brothers in Arms. So some ad hoc divisions, everyone realizes, hey, you've got 2 kills, I've got 2 kills, we can get ourselves a shiny.
Possibly.
But we'll see how that goes. The division stars have come back as well. So 75 stars.
What are division stars?
Scroll down a bit. Yeah. So these are back. So basically, as far as I can tell, every time you play in division with your clanmates, you get a division star. I think it's 1 star per clanmate.
Okay.
However, actually, no, I'm wrong. They have tweaked this. So you get 1 star for winning. You get 1 star for coordinated attack. So the division racks up 7 killing blows between its members. And there is a 3rd star available if you get the strike team achievement. So that is more than 50% of the total normal HP of the entire enemy team. The thought occurs if you manage to run up the division Kraken, you have probably run up strike team in the process. But you never know. And there are some fairly juicy rewards. I'm seeing a couple of nice little shots of steel at the 20 and 25 star mark.
Oh, yeah.
So that is going to be option. It's just this wording of playing with each of your clanmates can bring you up to 3 stars. So the question is that up to 3 stars per game, or is it up to 3 stars per clanmate? Because I think in the last run of Division Stars, it was you could get so many stars with each clanmate, and then you couldn't get any more. And that did end up favoring the bigger clans. The divisions. All right, Peaceful Places pointed something out. The achievement apparently specifically states that the division needs to be going before. Actually, where does it say that? Because that can only be earned by playing as part of a division in a random battle. The abilities can be in random battles. I don't see it saying that, Peachy.
It's possible that it says it in game or something.
Possible. I may have missed that. But yeah, we'll see. Because, of course, it is a fairly common practice in World of Tanks. And again, people may not bother ever since they took the rewards away from the achievements. So, slash shrug. I wish they'd at least put the economic rewards back in. I understand why they don't want the combat power flags tied to achievements, because that tends to mean the players that are getting the achievements get a small edge and therefore are more likely to get the achievements. And so you establish a virtuous or vicious cycle, depending on which side of it you're on.
True, but it has been in the game for too long for it to stop. And also, I mean, they are selling the flag, so everybody could just...
Yeah. Well, as I say, I understand why they don't want the combat power flags. So stuff like Sierra Mike, Juliet Charlie, and November Echo Set 7. But if you go with stuff like Zulu or similar, the XP flags, the credit flags, I don't see a problem with putting those on achievements as a reward. So there is a halfway house between all the flags and no flags whatsoever. And just having the economic flags is a nice, happy medium, as far as I can tell. Right. Meanwhile, Gibraltar's in the Research Bureau. Woo! I didn't get a chance to play her. I've seen her a couple of times, and as far as I can tell, she appears to be built for the murder of underage boats.
I think she can also murder cruisers rather effectively with those guns. If they aren't angling enough because of the nice pen angles.
She can certainly murder British light cruisers because she can overmatch those through the bow. But 234mm, anything else should be able to go bow in and donk the majority of her shots unless she starts.
Yeah, but she has enhanced angles. So people don't know how much they have to angle, and then suddenly your Des Moines gets the crap dealt out of it because you thought you were angled. But you were...
If you're stupid enough to expose flank, yes. Pointy end towards enemy. Pointy end towards Gibraltar in this case should stop the worst of it. But good luck maintaining that and worrying about everyone else. So, yeah, she should definitely get her murder on quite effectively. Maybe struggle a little against battleships, but at that point you just go to the old British standby of abuse the superstructure until it falls over. I went and bought Vampire 2 last week.
Yeah, I'm basically ignoring the research bureau.
Yeah, and Tulsa is long as well. So Tier 9 Des Moines. I'm trying to remember if it's got 8 barrels or 9. I think it's 8. But pretty much Des Moines autoloaders, a slightly slimmed down.
Isn't it like
battery.
6?
It might be.
I think it's just the same as Des Moines, just 1 barrel less per turret.
1 less per turret. Okay. I always thought they'd gone for if they were using twin.
Yeah, it says she's armed with 6 203mm guns.
6 barrel Des Moines, thank you. So yeah, 1/3 drop in firepower.
I'm looking forward to this one. I'll definitely grab it. I love the Des Moines, and I mean, if it's Tier 9 Des Moines, give it.
I'd be tempted. But if it was this or Salem, I think I'd probably go for the Salem. Purely for the extra guns.
Well, I mean, Salem's Tier 10.
That as well. But with matchmaking where it is, how often do you see 7-9 spreads or 8-9 spreads outside peak times these days?
Well, I only play peak times, so...
Oh, well, in that case, that's not a problem. Austin's got a new paint job. Not a bad one either. It is bitey.
Yeah, I like it. I don't have an Austin, so I guess I don't care in the end, but I like the shark mouth there.
And it's clan tokens as well, so neither of us is ever going to see it. So that's short, sweet, and simple. Festive and Soviet tokens have gone, unsurprisingly. And we have a variety of nerfs. Zhao has an extra 2,000 health.
And Pedro has half a second worth reload. Now everything is balanced.
I need the world's smallest champagne bottle, and I have no idea where to get it. FDR's planes are... Actually, that is 8% nerf, give or take, on their health pools. So it's...
Probably not.
It's basically losing an extra plane quicker in the same damage that you would otherwise keep it, if you follow me there. It's not going to stop the first attack, but if you were maybe thinking about pushing in a third wave, you might only get 2, or if you were going to push a fourth wave, you might only get 3, depending on the amount of fire you're running into. Lot of other little changes and just tweaks around the edges. Interestingly, they've upped the secondaries on a lot of the Tier 2 cruisers.
I mean, they basically said that they fixed some bugs.
It looks like they're standardizing on 3.2 kilometers because a lot of the Tier 2s that were short have gotten upped, but the Chikuma has got knocked down from 3.5 to 3.2.
I mean, they basically, in the original dev block, they said that those were bug fixes. Basically, they didn't have the intended ranges, and they now have.
Yeah.
Not that everyone is ever gonna notice.
No, I don't know. I mean, Tier 2 can still get fairly crazy, can't it? So that pretty much wraps us up on the 1010 article. So moving on to the dev blogs.
Yes, we have the first dev blog, I guess we're going to talk about the New Year celebration, Dockyard, technical changes, and other news. So we've got the Dockyard in now.
Yep, and we're off to Clydebank in the good old north of England, where apparently they have been fitting out Dreadnought with a very starry Christmas camo.
See, I couldn't even have told you that Clydebank is in England.
And TIL.
So, it's a 32-phase Dockyard, and once again, the last 5 have to be bought.
Yeah, so that's 7,500 doubloons minimum to get the Marlborough. Dreadnought at stage 6, Repulse at stage 18.
Yes, I mean, you get 2 free ships, right? That's worth noting because, like, those are things you can complete for free, right? So, 2 free ships.
Yeah, I mean, the big question mark on this, of course, and the thing that has started, well, we kind of have to recalibrate the word riot after this summer. Disturbances, vocal disagreements has been the difficulty of the mission.
Yeah. I mean, I no longer claim that you can get the last ship for free, and considering the last Dockyards they've done, I'm hoping that it's reasonable to complete all 27 stages, and you only need the 18 for like the repairs. Yeah, and I think Dreadnought and Repulse are some very nice ships to be getting for free. I mean, that they are actual ships.
For one thing, and of course, Repulse is our first R class, I think. So she is actually fairly historically significant. Of course, Dreadnought, come on, the whole ship epoch is named after her. How can you not know about HMS Dreadnought, Slayer of Submarine? 1 submarine. And she didn't even use her guns for it.
Tier 10 was the Tier 9 Marlborough is the last reward where you have to spend money for. I forgot what. We've seen the stats of the Marlborough, but I kind of forgot. Was that the King George thing?
My first thought is it looks like a King George V that's had an excessive number of 14-inch guns slapped onto it. So we've got 2 quad turrets at the front. And at least 1... I can't know if that's 1 or 2 at the back. I think it might be 16 14-inch guns on a Tier 9 battleship. 16-gun KGV,
Mhm.
yes. So that could be hilarious at tier 9, assuming she gets the British high explosive rounds.
I think I've seen the stats in a previous death block. I think there was something like her high explosive isn't that great.
Well,
If I remember
see what
correctly.
happens.
True.
And yeah, there we go. We've got a shot at the back of Marlborough under construction further down. And yeah, that does confirm 8 guns forward, 8 guns aft. And yeah, 16 guns, KGV level, HE. Yeah. Mind you, it's battleship HE. So to a certain extent, it's kind of, do I really... Well, the improved HE round would be nice, but honestly, do
Any
we
HE round
care
will do.
when you're throwing 16 rounds down range every 25 to 30 seconds? That'll be interesting. They have a new kind of competition going for New Year's as well.
Competition organized by 3 snow giants who were revived by magic stars. I mean, we all knew that this game had magic.
I'm considering the number of people alleging that various ships have got impossible power plants. And I mean, literally, they would not fit in the ship's hull and they're clearly being propelled by magic. It doesn't seem like that much of a stretch, honestly.
It just looks like what they've done, like in the past with like the German, where you selected the 4 beasts or so, and then the Russians where you selected the bureau. Now they just went with magical stars.
Because why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's Christmas,
Yes, and the London port is getting an update as well. Apparently sponsored by Hamleys.
Unique rewards for each team will be themed Commander Snow Giants. Doesn't say anything about a unique voiceover, I think. Right? Then again, how would snowmen even talk? Snow Giants, not snowmen.
Well, snow giant men, I mean... There are some things I think mere mortals should not contemplate.
Possibly.
Let's see. Also, yes, we have Sinterklaas, Snow and Stars camos. London gets its rework, and there's
New Year's collection.
Indeed. Much of this, of course, we'll get a better look at once they publish more details on. So at the moment, it's just pretty pictures and, this could be interesting.
I'm still a little bit halfly weirded out with the snow giant man. Like, I mean, I dig the other, like when I look at where you open the crates and how it's designed with the, like, Christmas mark and so on, but like those snow giant captains, they are... I don't know. Not really. Also not with the description of snow giants is...
Maybe there's something in Russian folklore that we're not familiar with.
Entirely possible.
Yes, entirely possible. Let's see what else. Oh, yes, some new sound presets as well as the option to tweak in detail.
I mean,
it's nice to have. Just to have some quick and easy options to tune, and then you can dive into more detail if you want. I have to admit, I tweaked my sound settings when I installed, and then it was basically set and forget.
Oh, really? Because they have broken the sound settings at least like 5 times, I think, since release.
Then I have gotten very, very lucky on multiple occasions because...
there used to be a time where, like, every time after a patch, you were like, oh shit, I have to tweak the sounds again because, like, now my turrets are 10 times as loud as they used to be.
I somehow evaded all of this. And a new ship demonstration screen for purchasing. Also, they have added underwater worlds to the scenario maps, which Either they are covering their bases, or they are potentially considering allowing subs into scenarios.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the subs. Well, I mean, on the one hand, they really don't want to do anything for scenarios, but they love subs so much that they might even be willing to contemplate doing something for scenarios.
Maybe. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, yes. Faso has her new camouflage.
Yes, it's hilarious.
I am not sure whether it is epic or hilarious.
I mean, it's a bit weird because they went with like a castle design that actually looks sort of stylish, and then there was like, you know what's this missing? A massive samurai on top that makes no sense. But then again, they needed just a very high tower.
Part of me almost wonders why they didn't just do the pagoda on the pagoda mast and just roll with that theme. I still want my crash test dummy skin for Faso, though. Such misfortune.
I don't know. I want like that massive samurai there on top to be moving and then to draw his sword and attack.
Oh yes, do it, Wargaming, do it.
You know, have you ever played, what was it, Red Alert 3 or so?
Yeah.
Which was the one with where they brought the Japanese in?
Red Alert 3. It might have been Red Alert 2. No, I think it was Red Alert 3 where they brought in the Rising Sun. It just got completely bonkers. If it wasn't already completely bonkers.
I could so see that skin like working in like Red Alert kind of. I mean, there was this giant statue that went around with like 3 samurai upper body parts or so on with giant swords or something.
The King Oni, I think it was called. I also vaguely remember something about frickin' laser beams from its eyes, but that may just be my memory playing tricks. Yeah, that would be epic. I don't think it will, because it will play havoc with the hitbox. But yeah, I still want my crash test dummy scheme, though. I mean, they've used her as examples so many times in their videos that really they ought to reflect that fact. Still, it's nice to see the Faso getting a bit of love, as opposed to artillery. Right, so elsewhere, the anniversary camo and the the rising camo are getting basically replaced. They're swapping out the bonuses but keeping the visuals. I don't remember seeing the rising camo before, but I may have missed how you got it. Does anyone remember seeing this early morning paint job before? Because I don't.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, I mean, for Valiant Services, the plain white anniversary camo. That one's pretty well known. I do not recognise the early morning paint job. Really don't. I mean, it's nice enough. I just don't remember seeing it in game at all.
I mean, I want to know how to get more of the white camo, though.
Anniversary. I think that's literally the only point they hand it out to you. I think it's
but since they're changing it now, right? They say details on those bonuses will be announced later. I mean, if they are changing those camos, then I presume they are going to make them available, right, in some way or form, in an event or whatever.
Well, my understanding is that they are literally just replacing the. So early morning will replace rising, and for Valiant service will replace for meritorious service in terms of supply. I don't know whether they're going to replace camos that you've already got. But I think, if memory serves, I think was it something to do with repair costs.
Yeah, it was post battle service cost. was reduced
Yes.
on those.
Yeah, I think they're getting rid of that and tweaking some other bonuses in. Let's see. So next up we have some tweaks to the test ships, Ramat, Harban, and Sejong.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
I mean, they've just nerfed the ballistics, basically. They're going higher and heavier. So on the one hand,
since we haven't really seen them yet, I guess we can't.
Exactly, it's all a bit okay. Fine, that's wonderful. We'll see what they're like when we actually get our hands on them.
But more importantly, there are like actually new ships announced.
Yes, and this is the stuff that came up in the King of the Sea final by way of the first announcement. And one ship I was not well, let me rephrase that. Two ships I was not expecting to see and one that I was hoping we would.
Yeah, I mean, the Dido is a nice change.
Yes, I mean, considering that they're putting a basically fictional Pan-Asian version, it's nice that they've actually got the Dido in as a British premium. And yes, thank you. I will probably go out and buy that. Apparently, Kilabin said he sent a rather strongly worded letter to Wargaming on the point. A few people have leveled criticism of the camo, and I think it was Bogsy said, great, thanks, we'll pass it on to the art team and re-research. Apparently, the dark blue is meant to go a bit higher in places.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen a colour photo of the Dido, so can't judge. But we'll see how the British mini Atlanta does and go from there. Let's see, the Canarias, the basically Spanish county class, complete with neutrality stripes.
I mean, that Canarias was with guest ship announced already, so now they've basically just...
Yeah. And we also have confirmation of a couple of things. First off, she'll have the same burst fire mode as Conde, Annapolis, and Zorki, or at least a similar one. And also, new nation added Spain, so that's another nation they're spinning off from the Pan-Europeans.
Yes.
Is there going to be a Pan-European navy left after this?
I mean, they can always just invent ships, right? I mean, you need to put the Swiss and Austrian ships somewhere.
Okay, you've got the Austrians, but they basically don't have a navy. Well, they don't exist after 1918, as the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed.
Look, we have an entire battleship line for the Germans based on like World War I ships, right? So.
I withdraw my objection. And Sevastopol, Project 69-1, I believe that this was what would have happened or might have happened if the German army hadn't decided to stage their summer holidays in the Urals in 1941. Because I think the Russians were in the process of buying those German guns and turrets when the war started. There was, okay, fine, well, let's slap them onto the Gneiss now instead. So it's not implausible. I think a lot of people, however, are annoyed that it might be power creeping the Siegfried and possibly not a morning person. Am I a morning person? Good question. Why would I not be a morning person? What did I?
The camo. The camo was called something morning or early rising or so.
Yes. No, I have never.
And we both didn't know anything about early rising.
Yes. Heresy, I tell you. Mind you, Scotland in winter, how do you tell the difference? Anyhow, back on topic. So, Sevastopol. Yeah, basically a Russian supercruiser with the 15-inch twin German turret from Gneisenau Bismarck etc.
I mean, it's
As I say,
clearly what we needed is another Tier 10 Russian cruiser. I mean, there are...
how many is that? 6 now?
We have Moskva, Stalingrad, Petro, Nevsky, Smolensk. It's number 6.
It's number 6. Improved ricochet angles on German 15s. That could be spicy. And quite good concealment parameters, but I don't see torpedoes, and I don't see a colossal amount of secondaries on the photograph. So...
Well, I mean, Russians aren't really... Even if it had secondaries, they wouldn't bench it, so it would be pointless anyway.
Maybe. Probably, but we'll see. I suspect it's going to annoy the Siegfried and Aegir crowd to an extent.
I mean, I don't know. It's a Tier 10 and not a Tier 9.
They're still going to be facing it, though.
Well, true. I mean, I'm just afraid it's going to be once again a Russian cruiser with a rather low citadel, probably 32mm armor and an icebreak.
And good stuff. Because that's what's needed. Yeah, we'll see where the numbers go, I think. But that could be.
But it doesn't have radar,
work out okay, or it's going to be a horrific sniping monster against which you may not angle if you were showing anything other than complete pointy end towards enemy. Moving on again, we have a ship that I was completely not expecting to see, despite that it's historical, the USS Forrest Sherman.
My ship knowledge here is not great enough. So can you tell us something about the Forrest?
Pretty much. They're a 1950s design of destroyer, so their focus switches more over to anti-air and anti-sub work rather than engaging capital ships. Guns, basically 3 single 5-inch. In this case, they're getting high explosive and semi-armor piercing. I have a little bit of reservation about that. We actually have a ship with 3 rapid-fire 5-inch guns down at Tier 8, the Harakaze 10 to 12.
Yeah, nobody uses
it. Because it's hot garbage. Even with rapid fire, if you only have 3 barrels, that tends to put a fairly tight limit on just what you can do with the ship's guns.
I mean, it just has to be even more rapid firing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, how fast are the Dakar boats going already? I mean, I think we're a lot of the time we're brushing down towards 2 seconds. That isn't the really interesting thing, though. The really interesting thing is the torpedoes.
Because 4 single tube launchers.
2 on either side, port and starboard, with a, quote, very narrow aiming sector. Now, give me a second. I'm just going to zoom in on the photo. Okay, there they are. They're on the first level of just behind the bridge, just a beam of the first smokestack.
Yeah, I think yes. I think I see
those are singles. We haven't seen singles since the Mutsu and the Smith.
Yes.
And they reloaded in 30 seconds. The angles aren't brilliant because those were actually anti-sub torpedo launchers. They weren't intended for surface work. But the thought occurs that while this thing is not going to have a clobbering alpha strike, it is going to dish out a surprising amount of hurt if you let it go to work for, say, 2 minutes.
Well,
the trick is going to be surviving those 2 minutes.
I mean, you have, the problem is if you have such bad angles, then, you have to launch 4 on one side, then turn completely and launch the 4 on the other side, because you don't, you're not like a Benham where you can. Benham launches on one side, turns, launches on the other side, but it has very reasonable angles, so you don't have to make a full turn. If you can basically just launch perpendicular, it's gonna be a hassle to use.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna literally be doing donuts in this thing. Cycling one salvo, turning around, cycling the other pair. By the time you get turned back around again, the first pair's reloaded, cycle again, and your turret gun crews are probably going to be getting dizzy. I wonder if those turrets can do 360 degrees.
I mean, it's a shame we don't think we have stats, right?
Yeah.
Wait, we do have stats. We do have stats.
We do have some early stats on them. So 25,000 health. The other concern I've got is the speed. 33.9 knots. Because that makes it... I think the only thing that's slower as terms of destroyers, might be the Harugumo. Peachy's, the Sherman is nothing like the Benham. It really isn't.
No, it's... we've seen the stats now. It has 81 second reload and 4 torps per. So you can launch basically 8 torps or...
It's 2 on either side.
Oh, it's only 2 on either side.
It's only 2 on either side, and I thought that reload was going to be a considerably quicker one. Because
forget it.
81 for a twin, the torps on that thing are basically going to be a sideshow. They're not the main armament at all, which brings you back to the guns, and then it's a case of 2.5 second reload, 808 meters per second velocity, 3 barrel. As I say, I am just reminded of all the reasons why nobody uses the 10-12 config on the Harakaze.
Yeah, like 2.5 doesn't seem enough reload for only 3 guns. And those torps, they also don't seem to... it's just way too much reload for so little torps.
It's just, where's the deep... Okay, I appreciate there's no alpha, but where's the DPM?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do?
Yes. Yeah, I do not... I mean, right now, to me, that looks slow and undergunned. I mean, it's pretty chunky for a destroyer, but it pays for that by being horrifically slow. I mean, what? Harugumo does 33. Most destroyers do at least 35. This thing is bimbling in at a hair under 34. Okay, that one knot doesn't sound huge, but it's that extra fraction. It sounds like a weird variation on Friesland. Yes, it does. Except Friesland is faster, and I am still not sure, looking at that picture, whether or not it's going to have the 360-degree rotation that lets Friesland play the Jinken kite game the way it does.
And 8.3 detectability, so it's not particularly stealthy. It's not well armed. It doesn't have great torps. It seems like just a head scratch. But it has Zap. I think Zap does have superpowers or something.
36 millimeters penetration. You might mess up bow plating with it, but good luck on decks or anything that's actually armored.
I mean, it's mostly to possibly against other DDs.
Yeah. Again, we'll see how it does in testing, but I have extreme doubts about this ship at the moment, just based on the paper. Dido's got her 5x2. Oh, yes, and the S189 is being added. And we know nothing else about it, except the fact that this is actually a museum ship. Well, museum boat, technically, in St. Petersburg.
I mean, it's rather sad that they haven't even figured out how subs work, but they are already having the premium ready to go.
Well, we kind of knew there were premiums coming. So that's not a huge surprise. And what does puzzle me is that the fact that they are not ready to say anything about concept and characteristics for the S-189, we kind of had an early peek at the Russian subs, so it may be that they're pulling that whole idea of fairly average but with a repair party back in for a rethink. So,
I mean, they first need to figure out how other subs work, right? It's hard to develop a variation if you don't even know how the base works.
Yeah, and I suspect we'll be just sticking with the Germans and the Americans for a long, long while yet. To the point where I am starting to wonder, I know I've said a couple of times in earlier editions of this podcast that I think they're shooting for a January release with the subs. I now have serious doubts about that. A month later, we're less than we are basically 6 weeks away from the end of the year. If they were aiming for January, I don't think they're going to hit it. So I think it's going to slide into spring at the earliest.
I mean, I'll ask you this instead. Aren't they released yet? Basically, they have kept, they have tested submarines for 2 weeks. Then they announced big changes. Then they kept subs in for 4 weeks, testing them in a complete obsolete state where they weren't able to collect data, but they left them in. Now they are testing the new things. I'm pretty sure when they announce changes, they're going to leave them in. Do you really think there will be ever a time again when there are no subs in the game? They are basically more accessible than after the full release right now because they're easier to get and they are in the main battle mode. And I don't see them ever pulling them out of them again.
We'll see, is the answer to that one. I can't really say one way or the other because I don't know Wargaming's plans on the matter. I agree, it's tempting to say that, this is a beta test in the way that most MMOs have beta tests, when actually what they are is soft launches and extended demos rather than test cycles, but ... shrug, we shall see. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we also have stats for the other ships there, right?
Yeah. And the fact that they are hanging off here does at least make me think that they are prepared to yank the whole thing back in and overhaul it as needed. Right. So...
when you're just looking at the Sevastopol, or how it's pronounced, nothing too exciting there, I suppose. It's what you'd expect.
Mm-hmm. Yes. As you note, no radar, but it does get a 20% engine boost.
Yes.
So my read on that is basically sprint to a firing position, dig in, use the 15s, and then relocate at speed again as you need to.
Also, not the worst dispersion and a good Sigma for those 380s that hurt like a truck. I mean, for a cruiser gun.
Yeah, 2.05 is cruiser Sigma. The fact that they are on 15-inch guns... We'll see. I'm holding a judgment here because Soviet supercruisers and I don't mix, is the quick answer there. As the regular viewership will tell you, bad things happen when I get behind the helm of a supercruiser, and bad things happen when I get behind the helm of most Russian boats. So when I get behind the helm of a Russian supercruiser, well, just wait for the mushroom cloud. It won't take very long.
But the question is, what happens when you run into an enemy supercruiser?
Oh, then the mushroom cloud happens a great deal sooner, more often than not. So I am temporarily holding judgment on that. I'm quite happy to say the Sherman is giving me all sorts of bad juju, but that's partially based off experience with the 10-12 Harikaze. And the Harikaze had a better torpedo loadout to work with. What's the muzzle velocity on the Dido's guns? 792. Okay, So it's not quite Atlanta ballistics, but it's going to have a decent amount of loft to it. Could have some
It
fun
also
with
has more range than Atlanta.
Yep. And let me see, what's the rate of fire? 6 seconds. Yeah. Fun could
And 8
definitely
kilometer
be had.
torps.
Yes.
Also comes with the smoke.
Only 3 on either side, mind you, but I'm going to reprise my opinion. It's not a British Atlanta, it's a British Flint.
Yeah. With better range. 1 tier lower.
It would be hard to have worse range. Have they? I know. I need to check that. Have they actually? I know they were upping the range on the Atlanta. Did they ever get around to fixing the Flint?
I think it's like 12.3 something. Like they changed it twice upwards, but they never went up to Atlanta standards.
Oh well, hopefully they've still got half an eye on that. But
Oh yeah, my number is not confirmed. It's 12.4.
Yes. So no, they haven't boosted it up to Atlanta grade then. On the other hand, you could argue that with the ballistics of those 5-inch guns, good luck hitting anything past 12k. So,
well, I mean, battleships, right? If they are hittable, unless you have 1,000 people, and then it gets tricky.
Make it rain, make it rain, make it rain. Yes. Okay, so that pretty much covers the King of the Sea ship announcements. Yes. Which brings us on to the important message from 2 days ago.
Yes.
All right, so this is a follow-up on the riot. And on the topic of that, of course, if you weren't aware, the Sackville camo is apparently going to be coming. Chobi signed over the rights. So to a large extent, it's yay! The community has won on pretty much everything that started off the War of the Summer. So from November 2021, all new containers and random bundles will be provided with complete drop rates. So huzzah, they have pulled forwards from 2022 somewhen, which was giving a lot of us doubt. So yay to Wargaming for that. So Black Friday New Year will be subject to this as well. This was my moment of cynicism. This was where I was saying, okay, let's see if they go for one last dip in the blind pool before they institute the new rules. And they haven't done that. They've resisted the temptation. They've actually got the rules in for the big money splash of the year.
Yeah. Which
is a really good sign from Wargaming.
True. And they'll add a warning. I mean, the requirement for users to confirm the age of 18+, those things don't really work, but I guess at least they tried or something.
I mean, it's the internet. It's not like you can go around and demand. All you can do to a certain extent is stick a warning up and say, are you sure you're over 18? Because it's not like we can demand verification from Russia.
Well, I mean, if they demand verification, they can't make sure that it's you, right? You could just take your parents.
Exactly. Therein lies the problem. So to a certain extent, they have got to rely on the honor system, and that's as far as they can go. They've put in a warning about the fact that, yes, these things are random and you need to be responsible about them. And they are being solid and open about their drop rates. And honestly, at that point, that pretty much ticks all my boxes regarding, okay, you're warning people who might be vulnerable that, hey, this is random, this is gambling effectively, and be careful. You're being completely open and honest about what the chances are. So if people do decide to drop their money on this, they are at least doing it fully informed.
Yes.
And I have to admit that was my big hang-up. It's just a legacy of my day job, where we are pretty big on the notion of informed consent.
But speaking of informed, the next thing is we continue to search for alternative monetization mechanics. For example, they auction off the early access achievement. This is once again where you are. I mean, I'm still torn about this because it's going to be a free ship, right? You're not missing really out if you don't get the Schlieffen early, and I wouldn't spend doubloons on it. But the kind of thing with the blind bet, like you have to buy the doubloons beforehand that you're gonna bet. So even if you lose the bet, you've already spent money on it and you have nothing to show. I mean, you have doubloons that you can spend on something. It's a weird half scammy for me because it would be really scammy if they'd auction off, like, I don't know, Belfast or something.
I'm not sure that I would go so far as scam. I mean, that is the nature of a blind auction.
Yeah, but then you're like
would you rather see a more conventional open auction with lowest bid to be in the reckoning for a Schlief, to get a Schlieffen, is X thousand doubloons?
I mean, what they could do is something like, I mean, it's hard because you could, if you don't have the doubloons right now, you can't bid them, but you could like basically, I guess they would be scammed too much if they said how much would you bid and the money only gets deducted if you win, in a sense. Like you don't have to buy the doubloons beforehand. I guess people would just scam them and bid too much.
Exactly, and then they're going to have to work their way down the list through people who aren't honouring their bids and gradually work their way down. At least if people commit the doubloons and the money, well, they know what they're spending, they've got the control, and if worse comes to the worst and they don't get the Schlieffen, well, they've still got the doubloons and they can go and
what I just would really like to see is if instead of like, I mean, it's once again a tactic to like leverage the fear of missing, even though like you aren't really missing out, you're just getting it later afterwards. But people I feel like people just feel like, oh, I need to get this right now. Maybe it's going to get nerfed. Maybe it's going to be superpower or whatever. I feel like they could just monetize more like customization. It works in every game. People are willing to spend a lot of money on customization. Right? Yes, continue to search for alternative monetization mechanics. We've told them for years there is one that's right in front of the nose and they aren't using it. They're just looking. It feels like Wargaming is still trying to look at how can we manipulate people into or pressure them into just spending money. Right? They aren't looking at, well, what's a good, fair way to monetize? They're like, how can we basically rob people and get away with it?
Except the flaw in your theory is that you pointed out, and I pointed out, that neither of us felt pressured to buy a Schlieffen because, hey, we're going to get them in a couple of months anyway. So
yeah, but we are a very small sample size in that case. Right? People paid what's the 20-something K doubloons at minimum, the ones that got them, and they sold. How many did they sell? 1,000. 1,000. So, and that doesn't count for all the people who spent doubloons and didn't get it, right? Who might only bought like 10K doubloons or tried it with 15K doubloons, right?
True. But again, I dispute robbed because they've been completely straightforward about what.
Yeah, but that's about psychological pressure, you know? I mean, on the one hand, you are responsible for your own money. But they are trying to manipulate you I feel like in a sleazy way. They know how people think and they're trying to manipulate them into spending money on stuff that shouldn't spend money on.
Except that FOMO doesn't really apply either because, well, that you're not really missing out either.
Well, you're missing out on 2 months of, where you could be playing it, and it could be nerfed because there might be changes incoming.
Yeah, but that goes for any ship. I mean, why not go and spend even more money converting your doubloons to rush up to tier 10 on a tech tree line? I mean,
people have done that ever since the game existed.
Yeah, I would rather they had been open about and said, okay, this is the current minimum that you would need to spend to get a Schlieffen. That is my dispute with this event. But other than that, I don't really have a problem with the way they did this. I really, really don't. I certainly don't see any dishonesty or scamming or sharp practice here. Maybe I am using a tighter definition of FOMO than you are.
Yeah, like I feel like they know how people think these days, that they want things like soon, and that people might be they want a status symbol in that sense, that they are the one that have a Schlieffen. They want to play it directly, and they don't like it's 2 months that you kind of have to wait for it until you can grind it, right? And then you still would have to potentially grind it. It's like people want it here and now, in a sense. And I mean, I'm slightly torn myself, because on the one hand, I understand that this is something everybody can get for free, and if you spend money for it, then it's your choice. But on the other hand, I feel like they're really trying to milk the psychological factors. They realize how to, in a sense, manipulate people into making bad choices. And I still don't understand why they can't just try to just sell regular ships and sell more cosmetics, right? Cosmetics, they work in every damn game that does them.
They do sell cosmetics, and they do sell free XP, and they do sell premium ships.
Yeah, but like the cosmetics they sell is so completely limited, right? You can't. They could allow you to configure like your permanent camo, in a sense, right? They could allow you to, let's say, you could apply the skin of one-time camo and convert it on a permanent camo for a certain price, right? Let's say for 500 doubloons, you can take one consumable camo and change that skin on a permanent, right? And you can keep doing that, right? Things like in most games, or in MMOs, as you're familiar with, you have like a transmog system or glamour system, however it's called, where you can basically take a skin that you like and put it on your armor. It's something that people would immediately spend money on. And it's something that people would keep spending money on, because now every time they make a new consumable camo that's cool, people are interested in that just because they can put the skin somewhere, right? It's like they're let them put more I don't know, stickers on, or write the text somewhere on your ship, or it's the ability like there are endless ways how they could make more money with customization. That's not very predatory, that could be very fun to engage with, and that people would be interested in, right?
Okay, so they can go for that, sure. Yeah.
I think somebody said in one of, was it like the console version or so, you can actually make a consumable camo permanent or something like that for a doubloon price. It's like, it's even like, I think in their own games they have gone for, or in World of Tanks you have more customization options for your tanks than you have here for your ships. It's like people have asked for better customization since the game launched. We have given them feedback a lot of the time, but for some reason it's just, I guess, too fair for them. I don't know. They don't want to make. It just seems like they don't want to make money if it's a fair, unoffending way. I don't know.
I don't see why any firm would be objecting to making money at all. So that argument to me defies logic, defies sense. So I'm not sold at all on that. I don't know why they haven't gone for it. And yeah, more customization would be nice. There's an idea I've pitched every so often, the kind of vanity ships. So functionally identical, but you can swap out the nameplate. So instead of, you'd actually have Shigure, for example. But who knows? Who knows? I suspect this is another thing on which we are simply not going to agree.
Possibly.
My view is that there's nothing dishonest about this. they're not really pushing FOMO in the sense that it's not permanently gone. And yes, I realise I'm defending wargaming, having been in the Pitchfork mob a few months ago. But while it's not quite the way I would have done it, I don't see there's a reason to start running words like robbery or scam or predatory on this particular scheme. So, do I like the idea of you're being able to use more camos and divorcing the idea of paint job and bonus might be a way to go, and that I think might have potential. But well, maybe they just haven't considered. Maybe there's some. I doubt there are technical reasons because it's basically a universal paint job. So,
I mean, it's something that
it may be
like
something
the community has reason. I think
it may also just be something that they have looked at, they've mapped out, and the information they've got back from World Tank says, well, actually, we can do it, but it's going to be a pile of work. It's probably going to introduce half a dozen bugs, and it may not actually make us that much money. So we'll see. But yeah, I have to admit, I would love to. I think it's worth considering, probably by wargaming, the idea of divorcing the paint job and the stats, and as you say, selling, perhaps, as you say, allowing people to make a disposable paint job a permanent premium camo with the same stats as that premium camo. But again, does that then introduce database problems? Because you then have the permanent camo. Do you then need a permanent camo equivalent for each and every disposable camo in the game? For each and every ship? And if so, what does that do to your UI? What does that do to your server requirements? What does that do to your programming? And that's something I don't know. That's something I don't know enough about the back end to be able to comment on.
I mean, true, we don't know exactly how it's programmed. We know that it's easily possible because most games do. But we don't know how Wargaming has like coded their game. But I do not believe that it would be something that they couldn't figure out. It's just something that they don't want to do. And what I've heard, I'm not sure who told me, but one thing that Wargaming once said was that basically they don't want to copy other, because people have made statements like, why don't you use this idea that's, for example, in World of Tanks, or something like, this is a good idea, and then why don't you do that in World of Warships? And they're like, we don't. Their answer was, we don't copy other games, which is, and considering what I've seen Wargaming do, I believe that their ego is so big that they will deliberately drop good ideas for a silly reason like that, because it's sometimes the only answer to a lot of the things that they're doing.
Maybe. I've not seen a statement like that, but I think we've both seen enough idiocy out of wargaming that seems to have been motivated by ego that I could believe it. We'll see.
Well, where were we? Oh, they've changed, I think. So it used to be, right, when you bought the black ship, you got a mission to play the regular version of it and get the balloons. And this was the idea of a sort of a discount. So if you had both, right, basically could get the black sort of cheaper, you still paid full price, but you got the balloons back by playing the other one. But a lot of people got confused because if you only bought the black ship, you still got the mission. And a lot of people thought this was a bug because now they had a mission to play a ship that they didn't have. So now you only get the mission if you have both ships. So basically not really a change towards how it's just making it clearer for people, I guess. So.
Yes, and a nice touch here is that you will now be able to complete the mission with both variants.
Yes.
So you, unlike, say, I think it was last year, where if you bought Karga B, you then have to leave the shiny paint job at home and go and binge the regular Karga for 15 games to get the doubloons back. Now you can take out your shiny new black ship and, well, get the doubloons back that way.
Yeah, so good change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, reworked victory bonuses that was announced already, right? You get steel for like what tier? Tier 8 and 9, I think you get steel. Tier 10, you get tokens that you can get
Yes,
containers from.
this is the New Year's Snowflakes victory bonus. So tiers 8 and 9 steel, I believe that's unchanged from last year. Tier 7, 750 coal, I believe also unchanged. 5 and 6 have gone up to 750 coal. The big change, however, is in the tier 10s, where before you used to just get a mini Santa box for each win. You now get a token that you can either exchange for a mini Santa box, or you can put 3 for a big gift or 5 for a mega gift. And given that they're publishing the drop rates on these boxes as well, I would assume we're going to see a lot of people doing a lot of maths to work out what the most efficient use of those tokens is going to be.
Yeah. So
again,
that's
information is good.
Yeah.
Choice is good as well. And as I say, 5 and 6 are getting more generous. 7, 8, and 9, as far as I'm aware, are unchanged. And 10, at the very least, you're going to have the same option as last year, and you have a couple of alternatives as well. So
yes.
Overall, that's another yay for wargaming in my book.
Yeah. You can't complain about that.
Indeed.
And then we have, like, they clarified that Khabarovsk and Kurfürst, when they're going to be replaced, you will get the camo for the new ship, basically, and they are retroactively awarding the camo for people who had the Moskva and didn't get the Nevsky camo.
Indeed. So this was a pain point when the change was made earlier. And again, credit to Wargaming, they're doing what a lot of people said they should have done with the Moskva.
Yes. Well, then we come to feedback and communication. I mean, I have to say, what they have done very well is they have recently released a lot of bigger statements and like argued their reasoning and even shared data and so on, and I like it. Now, they still don't necessarily make sense what they are saying, but at least we can see a little bit on what goes wrong there.
And at least we now have data to make reason counterpoints rather than just going,
yes,
this is a load of BS, but not being able to point out and say, why this is a load of BS. So huzzah for that. And clan season review, well, not only did they explain what happened with the last season clans, at least they've taken note of what did and did not work.
Yes.
10.8, of course, had the bugs and they fixed them. Bug fixes on that.
They've also noted people liked voting on a new map. It's almost as if people want maps and people like, delivering feedback.
Absolutely. And they like having that feedback acknowledged.
Yes.
Rather than just seeing it disappear into a pit. Submarine testing. So this pretty much sums up where and why they went with 10.10's changes to subs. Given that we've already nearly murdered each other over that topic once, shall I suggest we skip over it?
Sure.
Internal processes and some new job opportunities as well, both in Europe, both in Prague and in Austin. And in fact, speaking of Austin, Karmatika's moved on, of course. So I would presume that they'll be looking for a replacement for her if Bogsy isn't just stepping into her shoes anyway. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll find out. So keep an eye on the Wargaming US site for that one. I dare say they'll announce it there.
Now, if they only let us all fill out a next submarine survey, then that would be great.
Well, we'll see. As I say, I'm a little surprised they're discarding the data set that is larger than the data set they were planning to get. I mean, I can understand why they want to just process that 100,000. But you know what? If you've got the time and the computing capacity, do the rest as well. See what happens. I mean, it will give you an interesting divergence point if there's a significant difference between all the unsolicited responses, the voluntary ones, and the ones that you actually went out and poked people to get. Or Kitty.
Yeah. Also, I feel like it would just make the community feel a lot better if they have an option to give feedback, And
it's the optics of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I have to applaud the honesty coming out and saying, well, actually, we've just chucked everything of that in the bin. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. As I say, in Sub's position, I would run the 100,000 first. And then if we had the spare time and the spare data crunch and capacity, run the rest. And just look for divergence. I mean, it may well be that what comes out of that conversation is, well, actually, the 100,000 did significantly wander off the bell curve. So we might need larger samples. We might need to ask more people. We might need to curate our data collection a bit more closely to get something representative. And the only way to find that is going to be take your curated sample, compare it to the uncurated version, and see what happens.
Also, I mean,
they've got a golden opportunity to do that here.
I don't think he stated how many answers they got, just that they sent about 100,000. I remember correctly.
This as well. I didn't get one of the emails, so I can't tell you. Although I'm not on their Christmas card list anymore after this year, so side issue.
Yeah, I think none of them. So I here have this statement for this particular service. We've sent it out to about 100,000 players from those who played at least 5 battles in randoms. But he didn't say how many answers they got out of it's basically they sent 100,000 emails.
Yes,
only 10% answers. They only have 10,000 data sets.
Yes, and you end up wondering just how many people looked at that and then promptly threw the email in the bin.
Or landed in the spam folder.
Which I suppose is a known hazard when you're doing that kind of research, no matter how big the sample. Right, so where does that leave us on the week?
Yeah, I think we've about covered everything.
Yep, chat, is there anything else we need to bring up? Peaches, I have not been bought. Much. At all.
It's the internet, right? That is the troll answer that immediately happens every time.
Yes, how dare I suggest that wargaming might not be the devil incarnate? Yes, he's been bought. Get him. He doesn't hate submarines. Get him. He plays carriers. Heretic. Yes,
true. I can agree to all points you make there.
Oh. Is it too late to start running? Yes, I know, Peach. I'm just poking fun. I hang out on the Reddit. I'm fully aware of what the hive mind thinks at times. And to be fair, Wargaming's behaviour in the first half of this year was beyond the pale. But credit where's due. We had the fight. We seem to have won the fight. It's a shame that we had to have the fight, but at least they seem to be mending their ways. We'll see how far it sticks. Yes. Well, yes, of course.
So, then I think we can wrap it up here.
Indeed, I likewise think we are done. So, yes, I will see you on the seas.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for watching us. And we'll be back in the future.
Absolutely. Cheerio.
Night, everyone.
Good night.